Hello, and welcome to Dial the Gate, the Stargate Oral History Project. I'm David Reed. I have a special episode for you today. I have four Stargate fans who are also members of the United States, former members of the United States military. We cover four of the six branches in this episode. I'll explain why in a little bit. And I am thrilled to have them. These are a couple of them are new friends, and a couple are really old friends that go back a long way. And this is really something that I've been wanting to do for a while. Stargate would not have been what it was without the military, and I think it's important that we cover this. So we're going to spend some time getting to know them, focusing a little bit more on the Air Force, as that was the main vehicle through which stories were told. And you're going to get a little bit of insight from their perspective. Some of the things that the show got really right, some of the things that the show didn't get right, and learn more about their background, but also their background in relation to the show, and how it helped to influence them as people as well. None of these folks got into their branches because of Stargate, but it was also present in their minds, at least when the show was in production, when they were in, those who were at the same time that the show was running. So I think you're going to get a fair bit of insight into these four branches of the armed services. Let's go ahead and bring them in. I am privileged to be joined by four U.S. military veterans. I have one from four of the six primary branches of the military. There are 8 uniformed groups in the United States, which I did not realize that. But I'm not including the Space Force or the Coast Guard, and I have friends in both. But I really wanted to include the ones that I thought at the time were much more likely to be involved at operations at Stargate Command in one way or another, and definitely with the case with the Marines and the Navy as well. They were instrumental in Stargate Continuum. So it felt appropriate in this situation to have this with these branches. And I'm thrilled to welcome Phil Hseh, Ryan Nixon, LuAnn Vondracek, and Nick Hooker to my channel. Thank you all for joining me for this very special episode. It means the world to have you guys. Some of you I've known for a while, others I've just met. And so I think that this is going to be a really good amalgam of folks from different age groups and different time frames in the military. And I hope to be able to cover a little bit of that. But the one thing that you all have in common is that you're Stargate fans, right?
Right.
Oh, yeah.
All
Absolutely.
right.
Yeah. Yepper.
Phil, I know you the least, and I would like to start with you, if you don't mind.
Yeah,
Can you
sure.
tell me just give me a brief introduction of who you are, your rank, and where it was that you served, and what it was that you did.
Phil, I was in the Marines, actually Marine Reserves. I was in during the 90s, like 94 to 2000. So after Desert Storm, before 9/11. So never got called up, never got deployed. I was in what's called air support. Was in what a direct air support operations operator. Basically, my unit was bridging the gap between the units on the ground, like infantry, armor, and what have you, and the air wing. So anytime anybody on the ground needed anything aircraft related, medevac, direct air support, close air support, whatever, they'd call us. We would then call back to the air wing and then get them their aircraft and then route it to them.
Wow. And you did that for the majority of your time?
Yeah, all 6 years.
All
Yeah,
6 years.
it was a good job. I liked it. It was kind of an obscure one. When I first signed up, and I didn't have any kind of preference, and then okay, well that job was available. It fit time schedule for, okay, by the time I finish all my training, boot camp, MCT, I'd be ready to be picking up. So it's like, okay, sounds interesting. But all through my time, nobody had any clue what the heck that job was. Yeah, not the recruiter, not the drill instructors, nobody.
Are any of you surprised to hear that? That there?
No.
No, really?
No. There's always jobs like that you don't know it until you have to work with it one-to-one. It's just like, I didn't even know they trained you for this. And there they are, though, the specialist for the job.
I'll be darned. Mr. Ryan Stitch Nixon, hello, sir.
How's it going?
Welcome back to the show. You are a returning face. Tell me your rank, your background, and a brief summary as well of what you did.
Well, I was thinking back there as Phil was describing everything, and he said it was available, and it made me chuckle because originally I was supposed to be an anti-submarine warfare operator, and that was my whole focus and everything. And I got into MEPS, and they were like, it's not available, pick something else. And I was like, wait, what?
MEPS?
Yeah, it's the military intake. You go there, and there's a bunch of people.
Thank you. If there are any acronyms, you must separate them afterwards. Thank you. You can use the acronym, but then unuse the acronym. Thanks, guys. Go ahead.
Yeah, just real quick, it's a processing station, basically the last step before you get to boot camp.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, and literally the guy's like, he slides over this huge book, and he's like, pick something else. I'm gonna go smoke a cigarette. And I was so mad. And he comes back, and I was like, just sitting there, and I was like, I'm not going to decide the next 4 years of my life while you go smoke a cigarette. And I'm like, I need some input here. But I ended up being like a survival equipment man. The slang term is parachute rigger. I was also military police for a few years as a collateral duty. But yeah, I did 21 years as a rigger, and maintained all the emergency survival equipment for pilots. And I worked 6 different platforms and was on like 6 different carriers and different squadrons and traveled all over the world. And there's a lot to it.
So 21 years total.
Yep.
Okay, so we're at 27 years total, if my math is correct. Phil, you said 6?
Yeah, 6.
Okay. LuAnn Vondracek, welcome to Dial the Gate. How are you?
Very good, thank you.
Sergeant Major LuAnn Vondracek, I know that one because she and my dad had a long conversation, and I've actually sat down and talked with LuAnn. When I first started doing fan interviews, it was for Gate World back in the mid-2000s. And she and I sat down and talked years ago.
Yes.
And I'm glad to come back around. This is kind of full circle for me here, because there's a lot. I think this is a completely different environment that we can communicate in. And the series is now largely, franchise has been kind of put to bed for a little while, so we can look back on it. Tell me about you and your career.
Well, I joined active duty Army in 1975 because I didn't know what I wanted to do if I went to college. And so when I first joined, I was put into corrections. I was a prison guard, and then went from there to military police patrol duties and things like that. I eventually became a military police investigator. And then as I hit E7, I then switched out of military police and I became an instructor. And when I reached Command Sergeant Major, I actually retired at that point with 23 years in. And I was the senior enlisted advisor to a logistics unit. And I've been retired since 1997.
Wow.
But I lived around the world. I was lucky enough to get paid to live in foreign countries. I did a year in Korea, did lots of time in Germany. Got to travel a lot and had a really, really good career in time.
Wow, that's amazing. And Command Sergeant Major, I apologize, excuse me.
Oh, that's okay.
And Ryan, you said 22 or 21?
21 years.
21,
Yeah, I'm
23 and 6.
first class petty officer, which is a easy fixed. I did go up for chief 4 times. It was just so bottlenecked that they literally rated 1 to 3 per year, pretty much my whole career. And then about 2 years after I got out, they rated like 6. So I missed it by that much. But yeah, I was in from 1990 to 2010. I had a year of delayed entry, but because of the program I was in, they counted that for pay and time and all that. So it's a whole thing.
Wow, this is a thrill for me to be able to share these stories with you guys. Nicholas Hooker, Hook,
Hello.
to his friends. How are you, buddy?
Absolutely. Doing all right, David. Having a good one, and I'm excited for this too.
He's my newest friend. We just met at Dragon Con a few weeks ago and got on like a house on fire, pretty much inseparable. I'm been really looking forward to hearing your perspective on this, particularly because the show centered around the Air Force. So tell me a little bit about yourself and what rank you achieved and what you did.
So Technical Sergeant Hooker, E6 as well. I am at a collective. I just separated recently. I am at collectively 10 years, 7 of active duty and 3 as a reservist. Currently actually still in talks with recruiters about maybe picking up the career again, pushing a little longer. I don't like I don't want to take the uniform off, and I don't want to let those collective years towards maybe a retirement or otherwise go to waste. So seeing what I can do with it. But I spent my entire active duty career on one duty station here in Texas. I have 2 full overseas deployments and a contingency deployment to Puerto Rico under my belt. I've seen Afghanistan, Djibouti, Africa, and I was what is referred to as an aerospace maintenance technician, or short form crew chief. I was simply to say, mechanic for C-130 Hercules. I know that plane better than I know my own house sometimes, and that is one detail that makes a great touch in any show or movie. You know, military vehicles get used in movies all the time. When I see it, it's like they're filming in my living room. It's just like, what? It's so uncanny sometimes. So Stargate does not actually utilize C-130's interior at any point. Just a few cutaway shots and like, oh yeah, we flew down to McMurdo. But beyond that, it's more seeing the uniforms and similar details on that is the longest connection that I've had to it.
And don't leave out the C5 Galaxy.
The C5 Galaxy, yes. So, and then I spent 3 years working on the C5 Galaxies for the reserves, just down out of the reserve unit in San Antonio. And yes, that does get used in Stargate more often because per O'Neill and General Hammond, a C5 is a big aircraft. You can move a gate with that. You know, kind of. I can't quote him directly. I don't have the show that memorized, but there's a few moments where it's like, C5, huh?
And evidently a 747. So.
And yeah, just use a 747 to bring a whole F302. You know,
and Stargate
and Gate all together.
Does which bird do they jump out of in Watergate? With Marina Sirtis?
I believe. You know what? I would actually have to check that with you. I don't have that off the top of my head. I'm seeing it. It's not a C-130.
Okay.
Because I'm pretty sure it's a civilian or it's something European.
It was smaller.
It's not a current service aircraft. I can tell you that much because I have been on every cargo aircraft to see that the current United States Air Force fields, at least in a public, findable on Wikipedia kind of way. I'm sure that there's somebody who's like, oh yeah, this is ordered off somewhere, but no, they use something smaller for that.
All right. Thank you all for being here, and thank you all for your service to our country. 60 years combined, and Kat of combined service. That's quite extraordinary. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. I appreciate you guys. How far back does your love for Stargate go, and what's your favorite episode? Phil, can I start with you?
Jeez. It goes back a way, not quite to the very beginning of the show. I actually caught it, started late, I think around season 6 or so. So it had already had moved to sci-fi by the time I got into it. And favorite episode, I can't remember the name, but I love the
give me information. If you remember details, we'll figure it out.
The time loop episode where
Window of Opportunity.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, I love that episode.
Good stuff. Ryan? Stitch?
Yeah, he stole my answer, but
All right. There's only 350 episodes, folks. I mean, come on now.
It was just so good. Like,
If you had to pick another one,
um,
and how far back does your fandom go?
2005. I
Okay.
got really sick with the flu. I was home just binge watching Sci-Fi Channel, and it came on, and I went back to work and said something to a couple of the guys, and they're like, "You never watched that?" I'm like, "No, I hadn't." I'm like, and I literally went on eBay and I just started ordering every season. And by the time like I got it was the great big DVD one,
Yep.
and I was literally polishing a season like in like 2-3 days. Like, it was crazy.
Oh, you inhaled it.
Oh yeah, I couldn't even keep the eBay orders coming quick enough to keep up with how fast I was watching it. Like, so it was ridiculous. And then I met, Dan Kim and Phil and Dean and everybody at Dragon Con. Like, I literally had about 30 days to get ready for Dragon Con, and pulled it off, but it was a hot mess.
So how many, Ryan, you were a cosplayer. Has anyone else, no, and Hook, you've cosplayed. LuAnn, Phil, have either of you cosplayed for Stargate?
Yeah,
No.
that's how I kind of got started in the whole, really into Stargate, because I had met Dan Kim at San Diego Comic-Con one year, and then that kind of started everything.
Okay, got it. Ryan, what's your favorite episode other than Window of Opportunity?
Honestly, I would probably say right around the time period where they transitioned to it into Atlantis. So those few right there, I don't.
Lost City, Heroes.
Yeah, Lost City was big for me. Like, that was so cool.
Okay. LuAnn, how far does your relationship with Stargate go back? And what's your favorite episode?
Well, it started out late one Saturday night. I suddenly heard Patrick McKenna's voice, and I thought to myself, but Red Green isn't on. And I turned around and looked.
And not on Sci-Fi.
Yeah, and not
Or
on
Showtime.
Sci-Fi. And well, no, it was actually like a network late night showing thing.
You were catching it in syndication.
Yes. And I saw him and RDA in the same frame. And I pulled out a chair, sat down, and went, yep, okay, we got it. And I was hooked from that point on. And so that was about 2003, because it was like season 5.
That would have been season 6. And
Season 6, sorry, yeah.
No, that's all right.
And then, so yeah, from that point on, I was in. And then I eventually caught up with the rest of it. So I kind of watched a little bit backwards. And I had the opportunity to meet Patrick McKenna not too long after that through Iowa Public Television. And I was talking to him and I said, you're the reason why I got hooked on Stargate. And so now whenever we correspond or anything, he calls me the Stargate lady.
He's a great guy.
He is.
So,
he is.
Yeah, that
So
aired.
that's kind of the short story of how I got hooked. And actually the other guys, and then I agree, like with Heroes, Lost City, yeah, really kind of like the heavier episodes, that type of thing. Yeah.
Okay.
Sort of my standing list.
Hook?
Hi. So I would say my relationship with Stargate starts with, and it's vague in the air for this, whenever I happen to just pull my grandfather's collection of DVDs, he has Stargate on DVD. So that came out, I just Googled it right, I think it was 97 on DVD. So he had it. It was just sitting there. I had no idea. One day I was bored at his house, pulled it off, put it on, watched the movie. That was cool. Didn't think anything more of it. A couple of years go by and I have a satellite TV for the first time, and I'm just flicking through the channels and I just see the word Stargate Atlantis go by. I'm like, Stargate, what, more Stargate? I went back, I clicked it, realized how lost I was, had to Google it, saw there's how many seasons of this show? Hold on a second. And I sat down and just started binging. And no, I think I insisted on buying the first 2 seasons on DVD. And I've still got the whole collection in the other room as we just kept buying up the seasons. It's turned into Christmas presents and all that. And I'd say oh gosh, I probably started at 10 years old, and then it was everything. I mean, I was born in 93, so more or less the show was new when I was new. But once I found out it existed, I have absorbed every piece of content since. I remember watching Universe on premiere day and all that. Just like that was some of the stuff that's like, okay, new content. I get to watch this for real and all that. And it's been a huge part of it, and it's been huge in my life.
Which is your favorite episode?
Oh gosh, it's funny that it's like Phil had his episode, and then it's like that was also Ryan's episode, and now I said, yeah, Lost City 1 and 2 is what I had in the back of my mind. It's because it is, it's big dramatic, sure, it introduces a lot, it's Cold Warriors, it's all that, but the battle over Antarctica is been stuck in my head ever since I first watched it. It's the reveal of a whole fleet of 302s, and you just don't beat that. I'd say that the only thing that might compare is first time getting to see an F-304 in action is the Daedalus or
the BC-304.
The 304s. I love that ship more than words can compare as far as science fiction goes. So
the opening to Siege Part 3 was fantastic, especially with the reveal of
that is it. Yes.
Of the Prometheus,
it is Daedalus.
The Daedalus flying underneath the camera into battle. Yeah, it's a great sequence, and it is my favorite Earthship design for sure. I appreciate Prometheus, but office building in space, man, and that was what James Robbins was told. They want function over form, and so they went with it for sure. And it only made sense, I suppose, at that point. I'm going to be moving into a little bit more of a free-for-all territory here. I want to know from each of you guys, really the meat and potatoes. I think one of the things that folks will be wanting to know from people who have experience in the military, what the show got right, really right, and what the show didn't. Because you can only catch so much. Things move down the production pipeline very fast, and they only had one or two liaisons at any given time. So some things will occasionally be missed. What are the most glaring for you guys? And after that breath, what is something that you appreciate that they went out of their way to get right? And that's for the floor.
Well,
and then I'm going to come after each of you.
The biggest one, I think, is the literal Sergeant Major. I think he appeared in episode 1.
Episode 1, pilot.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so Samuels?
I don't know the name, but he was a literal Sergeant Major. He had Major's Oakleys on his shoulders, and then Sergeant stripes on his sleeves.
It's the individual who climbs the treehouse to unretire Colonel O'Neill.
Robert Wisden.
It's very visible on screen. It's fully right there, and he comes, Colonel O'Neill, I'm retired. It's like in that moment you see it both, and you're like, that. So I can't. Do you blame costuming? Who do you blame for that? And the answer is, I mean, if you asked any military member who has made it too basic. If you're in basic training, it's one of the first things you learn, rank insignias and all that. Anyone from there all the way to retirement, anyone would be like, that is wrong. And it's like they just didn't ask for the first episode. They did not have that liaison.
You're sure about that? Screening. They didn't have an Air Force liaison yet?
Correction. No. It feels like they must have not. I cannot imagine any liaison ever letting that through.
Okay. Hook, it is your fault that I screwed up with Michael Greenberg in an interview that I published last week when this thing comes out now. I was like, did they have one from the beginning? Because I'm not entirely sure. It was your fault. You put the seed of doubt in my head that that's the case. And so now at this stage, I'm not even positive that they started with the U.S. Air Force. I think so, but I have yet to confirm with anybody who would have known. So thank you for introducing that nugget of doubt. I appreciate it. But at the same time, it is pretty glaring. Go ahead, Ryan.
Well, You jump back to that. You always, I hear this so much online. Well, they have to do it wrong. There's this big misnomer on the internet and out in the world that Hollywood can't do it right. They have to put a mistake or it's not legal.
And you
Yeah.
can't
What?
impersonate military personnel or can't impersonate a police. Yeah,
Yeah,
people
it's
believe
like-
that.
It's an
That-
origin that just took off a long time ago, especially in the costuming world.
That is such that's such a bullcrap excuse. Come on. Wow.
Yep, I've heard that as well. And to the same effect, it's kind of a point of like, I mean, then make a fake rank. Like if you're going to be impersonating, you're going to add more on there. You're going to like might as well just throw like stripes and all like what are you going to do? It's like no, that was a very silly excuse for that issue at the time.
Wow. Okay then. But Ryan, anything specific that you've noticed over the years? That I know in a couple of cases, at least in one case, Hammond's. What is the board of ribbons? Is it called a ribbon board?
Ribbon rack is the most common
Ribbon
term
rack
that-
was upside down, I think, once.
That's easy to do, though.
Okay.
Particularly when you get a symmetrical one, like it's in rows of 3. So if you have anything divisible by 3, if you have 12, it's a matter of like, all right, upside down is the exact same equilateral kind of shape. If you have an odd number, it's like the 2 or the 1 go at the top or something like that. It stands out a little different. But yes, I have seen that one pointed out. And there's another time where a very, I think it's, you're going to know the episode off the top of your head, is the episode with introducing Sam's dad.
Oh, okay. Secrets.
Norman, yeah.
Yes. In Secrets, there's a room full of individuals in blues, and ribbons actually have an appropriate order to go in.
Yeah.
And I'd say there's 3 or 4 individuals in that room, and it's just like, it's like they had so many ribbon props, and like, okay, order this one, look at it. There's just a little bit of assembly wrong there. Not a lot, but it's just like, and that one just got moved over. It's like, were they just throwing them on the ribbon rack? It's not a huge thing. You got to like stare at it and pause the screen to see it, but it's there.
Hey, to play devil's advocate, though, Hook, how many times have you seen that in real life?
I've had to be the bad guy sergeant and be like, my sergeant noticed my airman is off, and it's like, I'll get him, sir. I'll get him. But that being said, I've had airmen show up to roll call with the part that says U.S. Air Force and their name tag. I've seen them show up with those Velcro swapped. So, there's days, and you have to say, like, I know your mother didn't dress you because I know you're from Kansas and we're in Texas, but did you get dressed in the dark? You have to laugh it off a little bit and then just move forward with them. Be like, okay, I don't want to have to give you either something silly like paperwork or a conversation about, do you know the dress and standards appearance? Have you read your AFIs on uniforms? It's like
AFIs?
Sorry, apologies for that. For the Air Force, it is the Air Force instructions. Okay. It is the guidance on how to do all your dress and appearance. I know I believe AIs for Army. There's all kinds of terms for it. Yeah. But I know that in particular,
what is it?
There's just
regulations in the Army. Thank you.
Just regs. Yep. All right. Yeah, see, I knew that there was acronyms and things for each, and there's crossover. But yes, there's uniform bloopers. But also, with that being said, a room full of individuals in their dress blues, somebody would be like, all right, what are you doing here looking like that? Comments like that. So again, calling it with costuming, they can only do so much, but it's also a question of like, was it a liaison? Did they run it by the liaison even? It's interesting to think of like, did they get someone to say, okay, how many people of what rank would you get in a room like this? It's all happening in DC, right? Military Central for command, it's officers everywhere. But then again, that's true for Colorado and in particular Cheyenne Mountain too.
Exactly.
You're going to have so much high rank there that, there's going to be either like, you're not going to have like, oh, here's the general and he's got 2 little ribbons. It's like, no, you got to load these people up. They've got full careers behind them. You got to give them a lot of history.
Exactly. They have a history. They have a military history if they're in that room.
I find it really, really interesting to think of these service ribbons. And again, Stargate Command, utmost secrecy. No one ever knows. No one knows what you can get there. Sam's dad asking, what are you doing in there? They promoted you for that, deep space radar telemetry. It's always a whole thing of like, these individuals are doing frontline combat or, the most important stuff. And it's like, I really wonder, they never touch on it in the show, is there someone somewhere who's writing down accomplishments and being like, and if we ever go public, these guys get this ribbon, these guys get this ribbon, this one's the alien defense ribbon. I wonder if there's in the back of someone's mind, the secret list of, oh, they're earning it, we just can't let them walk out in public with it. Like, I love the concept, if nothing else. Like, there's got to be something. You got to recognize them someday if it ever went public.
Yeah, it's Saul Rubinick's character, Emmett Bregman, says secret wars and secret deaths. If there are secret wars, there would be secret ribbons for those wars that are probably just designed somewhere, perhaps not even designed. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Ryan, you have something to show?
I do. This is one of my pride and joy prop collections. I actually have Ben Browder's rack. This particular rack has his Medal of Honor on it.
From the F-302.
The top and center, yeah.
With Medal of Honor.
Because I know it was never worn on screen. And I think that was part of just his character and who he was. I don't know who made the call. It was definitely made. I mean,
the rack was never worn, or the Medal of Honor was never worn on screen?
The Medal of Honor on screen that I ever saw. So I don't believe this was effort. I mean, it was made. It's got his name on it and everything. And after in the beginning of season 9, with they're doing the flashbacks and the 302.
We're seeing him in the office with Bo, yeah.
But when he walks up, puts his hand on the gate, like that was that was probably one of my also favorite later episodes. But I went back to that because, when they flash back to the hospital and they told him he's getting the Medal of Honor and everything, but he never wore it. And that, to me, production doing that was awesome. I loved that, that his character was so humble, and I remember Landry giving him crap, self-deprecation and all that, in the office the first day when he's supposed to pick the team, and it just, all that tied in to just his mindset and the way Ben tackled that character.
Mm-hmm.
The acting, all of it, and I don't know who made the call that, well, we're not really going to use it. Maybe it was just a thing that, well, we don't want to use it because it's so important and real and honorable, and maybe we shouldn't show it because maybe somebody get upset about that. That might have been a production call, just out of respect. But I was able to attach that to the character itself.
Did I sell that one?
No, I got it in a crazy lot from some lady. I just bought a bunch of stuff.
So PropWorks didn't have that one. Well, I'm going to have to check because we sold a lot of those ribbon racks.
It was a lot of Continuum stuff that I had gotten after the auctions. But even the PropWorks books, I was going to comment earlier, there's a lot of them that were upside down in the catalog, and I gave Alec crap for it.
No, so that was my job. That was not Alec's responsibility. That was mine. So you should give me crap for it because I should have had a military advisor. So,
well, when I edited the second book, I made sure they were all rotated and
exactly, for sure. I didn't realize that the ribbon racks, they could just come off so easily. Do they have to put them on every morning?
It depends upon order of precedence for the medal. So that's how you can get them, like one almost literally outranks another medal or an award. And that can happen. But also, too, you just have to be careful when you do it, and just know what you're doing. But yeah, for somebody else to catch that, especially somebody higher than you to catch you like that, if you're of a lower rank, it's kind of like, it's more than an oh shucks, it's could be something not serious, but
it's a reflection of your attention to detail.
Yes, and also maybe your professionalism too, that's a probable. But anyway, so yeah, it happens.
Okay, for sure, yeah. As I could see something like that, a repeated offense of that would eventually cause someone to be disciplined. I would think it's like, okay, this is something that you really should be getting right. You have to have a certain amount of attention to detail in order to be effective at your job. And if you can't get your uniform right, what else does that say about you? So,
Yeah.
Well, and something you might not realize, David, is every medal has a ribbon, but not every ribbon has a medal. So that's where the order of precedence can get mixed up, especially if people are moving them around and don't have a separate rack that they keep. I always kept two. When I did email my pictures in for you, you'll see me in my dress blues. So you'll see all my medals, but on the other side, I actually have ribbons. So those particular 4 that I wear don't actually have a medal. Okay. Now, when they're combined into just the ribbon rack, then they're all intertwined.
Wow. That's complicated.
And you asking, do you have to take them on, put them off? What I think a lot of us did, at least a lot of in my unit, we just had entire separate boards that you just pre-assemble them, and you would remove the whole thing and pin a different one on for a different event. It's just like, just transfer that one over. And it's pretty rare to have, in my lower enlisted level of blues events, the occasional dining out with a commander event, things like that. Very rarely you would wear medals if you had earned them. It was mostly ribbons. But there were a few where it's like, all right, putting on your best mess dress. How many medals do you have? And you had airmen who'd be like, I don't have any medals. I have ribbons. And we'd have to look at them and be like, your ribbon corresponds to a medal that you've earned. You own a medal. And they'd be almost shocked. They'd be like, oh, I've never had to wear it before. Where do I get it? Moments like that where, commonality of it is different, but going with something like those folks in DC, all going to all these big events with the president showing up, you'd probably see more medals.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. Phil, any feedback? Any you want to throw your cards into this?
I was just going to say, like, going to medals, where Hook was saying about, I didn't know, but I had one. Is it for every time there's a conflict, a war, the U.S. military as a whole issues out what's called a National Defense Medal. And the thing is, it goes on for some years after the conflict. So for me, I got in around 94 after Desert Storm. But even though I got in after Desert Storm was over, I got issued in boot camp a National Defense Medal.
Okay.
And they kind of jokingly call it a fire watch ribbon, which is basically standing guard duty during the night in boot camp, because we didn't serve in Desert Storm, but we got awarded this medal.
You were defending your post in wartime.
Technically, but we were in boot camp.
Okay.
So we didn't see anything. We're not even actually fully trained yet, but we graduate boot camp, we get this little medal, and it was going on for a while. And so I remember, like, by the time I got to my unit and doing it for a couple of years or more, it was weird when we started getting new joins and we were wearing, a uniform, a service or full dress uniform, and they had nothing but shooting badges. Like, whoa, that's weird.
I know when I was in basic training, so I joined back in 1975, and the timeline is, so Vietnam was ending, kind of thing. And when I was in basic training, they actually gave us a National Defense Ribbon for Vietnam, and then ended up taking it back from us because then they discovered we were not in the proper timeline. So we were all wearing one, and then they took it back. And that was just like bizarre, but yeah. And then, the other thing too, I went on a mission with, when the Cuban refugees came over, we were deployed to Wisconsin, and we got the Humanitarian Service Medal, which not everybody has. So you always had to keep track of where that went, in the scheme of things. And yeah, so it's pretty interesting. But one thing I'd like to bring up, the one thing that impressed me about the show was how you could tell the actors wanted to do it right. And they did it. Now, granted, it's a television show, so we could also talk sometimes about the operational aspects of things weren't exactly, it was more television than everything else. but that the actors wanted to do it right.
They didn't
And-
have to care as much as they did.
Exactly, yes. And also, too, Don S. Davis, with him having been in service, he brought things to his character that obviously nobody else had. But I think he also had an influence on that, too, by, presenting his character, too. But even some of like the, I don't want to call it like military courtesy per se, but sometimes it got a little bit, you weren't exactly thrilled, but in the end, you knew what the intent was and how they brought it across. So, yeah, just a few of those other sort of things like that were a little different, but
Okay. I can't. I've always my dad flew helicopters since Vietnam until about 2012 or 13, and everything from Hueys to R-22s and 44s and BK-117s, and he would always complain when we would watch TV he would see a helicopter that he flew planes as well, but his focus was helicopters that did not make the sound that it was making on screen. And he's like, you know what? That bird, specifically the Hueys, it makes a very specific, it's a very specific sound. And he's like, they couldn't go to the trouble of pulling a sound for that type of a bird. And I was like, Dad, you are probably one in 1,000 audience members who would be able to recognize that sound. Maybe not 1,000, but it's not 500 either. It's something very specific. And the question is, how much does it take in terms of resources to go and fetch certain things if you don't have those files immediately on hand? I suppose, now you can go and get a sound for anything. And something as specific as say a Huey 204, that's going to have you can pull that from anywhere, and the sound is uniform enough that no one will know where you got it as long as it's a straight up sound. So there's a lot that goes into that, and the question is, where do you divide the time? Where do you split it? Because with production, you only have so long. Ryan, was there anything else that you spotted over the years?
Well, from the costuming aspect, and everybody had their cats, so I gotta.
Oh my God! Jeez, that's a big cat.
That is something from the costuming aspect that I really liked because, and something else that they got right was how invaluable civilians incorporated into the military settings. Real quick, when I ran the Paraloft in Atlanta, I had a civilian that worked there for ever. And every 4 years, he got this new idiot that rolled in and took over as supervisor. And, he had a new boss every 4 years, basically. And I went to him as a presidential advisor, and I'd always bounce things off of him because I was like, hey, Brad, have we ever tried this? Well, yeah, back about 9 years ago, he had such a wealth of knowledge. But just that invaluable civilian contractor type thing, because there is people out there that get that job and they're just there forever and they're a cornerstone to the maintenance, or, you got tech rep, all kinds of stuff. But from the costuming aspect, the thing that I really loved was, Carter and O'Neill always, uniforms very fitted, boots, bloused, everything. But Jackson, he always wore, and I know some of that carried over from the original movie, but the larger BDUs that were a little more sloppier, his boots weren't always bloused or whatever, because he didn't have to. He wasn't required under military regulations, even though he had to wear the uniform just to blend in. And then, of course, Chris, being Tilk and an alien, it was neat to see how much he would do to kind of fit in. but you'd still see the just direct job of the laces, and it just, they got so much right. It was just amazing.
They had to show his guns. I mean, come on.
Oh yeah,
They were enormous. So
Actually, one little note I can add on that, which is there's an episode, I believe it's a Jonas Quinn episode. Again, there's so many.
Yeah.
There's a bit where he shows up, he looks around the room, and you've got God, I keep, after talking to you, David, I have trouble saying, do I say an actor name or a character name? So
right.
he looks over and he looks at Colonel O'Neill and Major Carter, and he sees what they're wearing, and he looks over at Daniel Jackson, who's wearing a different colored flight suit of the day and all
Redemption.
that. He's got greens, blues, and he says, "Hey, how do I know what I'm supposed to wear? What color do we wear each day?" And the answer for military is, there's actually a schedule in advance called Uniform of the Day that can get published to a unit if they're going to be doing specific things. My unit was 99% of the time wearing the camouflage, the usual this or that, but they would have like, hey, we're doing a blues inspection day on this day of the month, so Uniform of the Day, that day will be this. And then again, if you're not military, it would probably just go right over your head. What do you mean you change it on certain days? But that moment was a little bit of like, that's a very civilian question in a military show. It fit really well. I love that moment.
Does anyone remember what Carter's answer was when she left the room and kept walking and then responded?
I don't.
No one remembers it?
The memo? No.
So she says, we call each other every morning. It's so funny. I loved it.
That's good.
LuAnn, was there anything that you noticed over the years that I know you specifically spoke about the actors wanting to make sure that everything was correct. Is there anything that stood out to you that was like, oh?
Sometimes the, if you will, military courtesies were a little bit too friendly. And when somebody outranks you, you're supposed to show them, if you will, the proper respect. And I get that maybe because it was television, but that sometimes that kind of grated me a little bit, because it's also a thing of, you work for it, you earned it, you should be respected for it, kind of thing. And so, yes, occasionally that would kind of get my claws to come out, but yeah. And also the other thing was when Jack O'Neill was wearing his star finally, and to know that the Air Force gave him one in real life, to me, that was just kind of like big icing on a big cake, and that the Air Force thought enough of the show, but also him, because Jimmy Stewart was the only other one to ever be made an honorary general. And so, yes, that's it. So that was kind of like
well, that was huge.
Big, huge.
I've heard members of production say that the Air Force told them that Stargate was their biggest recruitment tool for years. And I don't think that was their intention. I think that was the result. Like, people said that they watched that show and they're like, I want to be part of something big. Maybe we're not going to be going on other planets. And if we do,
well, I know the other thing too is that the Air Force never seemed to, if you will, capitalize on Stargate like, the Navy did on Top Gun, that kind of thing. It was more people approaching it, because they enjoyed the show. It wasn't the Air Force going out and saying, hey, you want to be like Stargate kind of thing. It really worked for them, but they never actually officially came out and endorsed it, that sort of thing. So yeah, it was.
I might be a case example of that one. I didn't think of Stargate when I went into my recruiter's office, but it wasn't until I was on my way to MEPS, I was like, I feel like there's a lot of Air Force in my brain already. A little after the fact, like, that's right. It's the branch that I like on TV already.
I'm surprised that it took you that long for it to click, as much as you enjoyed the show. It
was kind of a thing of like, again, what occurs to me now in particular is that the show dresses up as the Air Force, but it doesn't actually apply much of modern, or again going back to when it was a thing. I've seen a few details that I was going to mention. It doesn't apply much that is Air Force culturally or policy wise or otherwise. It's all for the sake of the writing of the show, it's all very unique. It's an exploratory, political, meeting uncontacted tribes. Like, there's not much policy from actual Air Force you can apply to that. It's all probably closer to Secretary of Defense politics.
Can you give me an
then
example?
As far as the idea of these individuals having all, like, this colonel having this unilateral authority to go work with these people in these places and such, that the reality of and again, the combat that they do, like the idea of, like, all right, this tribe is hostile, start shooting to escape to the gate and stuff. Going to modern idea of, like, who you're allowed to shoot or who you're allowed to ever be in, any sort of mortal combat with. There's a lot of policies.
With the Pentagon all the time.
You would be being like, okay, we're not getting along with them anymore. What do you want to risk it? Is like they had a lot of authority as the SG teams. But what I was really leaning more towards, as far as mentioning the culture and such, is that the Air Force has certain things that are maybe their. I'm trying to think of the term, the most appropriate terms for this. It's the morale inspiring things that they go on the T-shirts. It goes on the Air Force websites. It's on the top of your stationery. There's a lot of things, like, for example, in '95, the Air Force adopted core values, and it's integrity first, service before self, excellence in all we do. And that is literally, you cannot open up any Air Force documentation without finding those words somewhere. It's everywhere. And every branch has equivalents of their core values and similar and all that. But at no point in the show is this ever utilized as a touch of, like, oh, see how Air Forcey we are? The show doesn't capitalize on being Air Force as much. They chose the Air Force as the vessel for it because they were, space and Cheyenne Mountain and a lot of that. But there's very few times where it's like, that's a little touch of the actual Air Force. You never have Landry drop some, line at a scummy major being like, whatever happened to integrity first? Like, they don't utilize real military cultural things that members in the military would recognize as television, I guess, tropes or anything. They don't try to manipulate it out that way. I would say what they do to get people to like, that you mentioned that it was a good recruiting tool on accident or otherwise. What they do is, I think it's just military core values in a way. It's integrity. It's like, we never leave a man behind. The amount of times that gets used in early seasons. We that's just not how things are done around here. A lot of that general high moral ground that is at least tried to be touted, it ends up being just like, you shouldn't have messed with the United States military. A few comments like that throughout the span of the show, compared to, again, more direct, like, let's go ahead and pull something from the handbook on how to be a United States airman or a Marine soldier, a sailor down the line. It's not like they're plucking that. It's like, okay, we got the uniforms, we have the bases, and we are allowed to keep using the toys and tools like the aircraft and the this and that. And then after that, we're just going to go with military culture as our theme for Stargate Command. Is how it felt to me always. It's not realistic. That was if we were going to go to what I would complain about. It's like, no, I don't think it doesn't feel real, because it is Hollywood, of course. But it's like they absolutely had the choice. They could have made it more real. They could have dug in, and I think they might have made the intentional decision not to. There was lots of resources to pull from, and they kind of said, like, we've got Stargate Command has a vibe to it. We don't need to start making it more militarized. It might have felt like propaganda at that point. It might have felt like they were turning the show into a recruiting tool, and they might have thought that would drive people away. It's not trying to be a war series, documentary, HBO. It's not. This is a science fiction show about these, bonded individuals on their, thing. I would say the most patriotic, I would say, the show tends to get is when there is leftovers of the episodes where China or Russia is getting involved, things like that, where you got to be like, well, we got to support our American allies, and America's not going to give up the gate. Other than that, it's not really all that much of a gung-ho stars and stripes kind of show.
But David, didn't Didn't which one? Robert Cooper say something to you at one point about how what they submitted the scripts that sometimes the Air Force didn't have them like completely rewrite, but they would couch them on, you know, maybe that's not quite the way you want to say it.
The Air Force would get
Yeah,
to read every script beforehand. I think
right.
to Hook's earlier point, the scripts are being written by civilians, and they're obviously wanting to produce a quality story first. And I think that in terms of making it not wanting to make it appear propagandized, I think is definitely there's a component there for sure. But I think to your larger point, yeah, that was definitely, LuAnn, what they were trying to go for is like, okay, we don't want to do something that the Air Force is going to be rubbed the wrong way about. It's like, let's make this work. And very specifically, I mean, window of opportunity is a great example. O'Neill hands in his resignation and then turns around and kisses Carter. And he can only do it then. But it's hilarious at the same time because we all know it's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ryan?
Well, what I was going to say is I think what they really tried to do was just touch on the military bureaucracy, the red tape, the oversight, the political issues, even using the moral dilemma stuff and, Jackson being that moral compass and that type of thing. But they still, the need to file the reports and the hurry up and wait. I mean, they got that part of it right. But I know for a fact that they had like geophysicists and people that read over the script. There was what was her name? McKinnon?
Mika McKinnon. Yeah. She was the last science consultant on Stargate.
She would go over
Geophysicist.
all the peer research and make sure that all the scientific stuff was, as close as they could get it. And, but it was just even like a Navy SEAL team. You have a huge team, but particular mission, there may only be 4 or 5 guys that go out.
Yeah.
And where they were able to kind of twist that was assigning the particular teams. And then the specialty teams, so of course the Marine teams were SG3, SG5, and then they would touch on that particular mission and what was required. And, the big fans started making lists of, okay, well, what does SG17 do?
Sure.
Yeah, and there was exploratory and medical and the Marine teams and it got really cool because they did do that. So those are the types of things that they did do. Now there was unconventional officer behavior, sure, and I believe it kind of got worse. I was a little disappointed in the way like Greer conducted himself as an E9 on an SGU. That was more like maybe a disgruntled E7.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, it just, the rank didn't match the character. That was the type of mistake there. I mean, I love him as an actor and his whole character and everything. I just didn't like his rank. That was it.
Phil?
I think he should have been an E7.
Phil, any comments on Greer and the Marines, or any specific thoughts on the usage of the Marines in Stargate?
Nothing like Greer, but I do feel like the Marines probably would have in real life been utilized more because what you see the SG teams do would be like perfect for Marine recon. That's their bread and butter. They go out and scout ahead, sometimes miles and miles ahead of even the most forward units. And to me that would be a recon job ideally. And also a minor nitpick would be is like I feel that after a while there would be greater involvement from the other branches. There's no way something as big as the whole Stargate program, once it really started taking off, that the other branches wouldn't want to a piece of that pie. You see that throughout history. Anytime something happens, all the other branches want a piece of that pie. It's like Grenada, Panama, something happens, every branch
Wow.
wants to get involved. Sometimes
If they
to
know
the
about it.
detriment, yeah, sometimes to the detriment of the overall goal, the overall operation, but because oftentimes it's budget dollars on the line. They're going, okay, no, we have to. Well, this is really a Navy operation. Air Force doesn't need to be involved. No, we, the Air Force, want to be involved, and that kind of thing. And I think that, with something like the Stargate program, the other branches would be just inching in, going, hey, we, either saying we want to act a bigger role, or eventually saying it can't be under just the Air Force, make it a joint command. So all the branches have personnel in there, and command of the SGC would rotate between the branches every so many years.
Interesting.
Yeah, that was one thing I did kind of miss the Army in Stargate.
Yeah, I think that they would have
I
had a
really
function
did,
there.
because it was like, okay, where are we? And I kept kind of waiting, because there were places where they could have, if you will, dropped them in. And so, yeah, so the other three on here, you guys had a good time, but we were just kind of sitting back, I guess. But yeah.
Well, the Army did make a brief appearance in one of the later seasons, 9 or 10. You can see them because they're wearing the UCP. So they're very recognizable.
Is that in
Yeah.
Fourth Horseman by any chance when they're on Earth, or are you talking at SGC?
No, I think it was off-world somewhere.
Really?
Yeah, they're wearing that
What?
gray digital camouflage that the Army eventually got rid of.
Are you talking about Atlantis, like with there, because there was I think by season 2 I'm thinking of there was a gray
There was a gray digital on Atlantis, but it wasn't what's UCP or the Army Universal Camouflage Pun. No, it was definitely Stargate. Like I said, one of the later episodes, and I think they were pretty sure they're off-world. I distinctly remember that.
Okay.
So I can actually pitch in a little thing. I don't have an episode specific, but I know throughout the span of the show, I can actually hear in my head Colonel O'Neill referring to another SG team leader and having a whole thing of like, some comment like, oh, that's that Marine mentality or something like that. There are times that there are teams that are blended or having other branch members.
Oh, SG3 is a Marine branch.
There's SG3, but there's other times too. But at a certain point in the show, it became the SGC uniform a lot of the time, and you really drop a lot of the uniform premise of being able to identify anything. They don't wear U.S. Air Force on a patch anymore. It just becomes you're an SGC member. Where did you get plucked from? This branch, that branch. It happens, plenty with the expeditionary group to Atlantis and then the university and Icarus and all that. But I would say one thing that going with what they should have utilized. Modern Air Force, and I'm from what I know of my history of prior Air Force, at the time of the original filming and creation of the show, does not have that many combat roles. Most of them are very specialized. The primary firearms using thing is our security forces. It's meant for base defense and all that, and sometimes they help with convoys in modern times. But in general, the idea of so many expeditionary teams being led by, what our special forces were in the Air Force. It's we're going to send our combat controllers and our special weather and radio men, all these. Yeah, they're tough guys, but it's like, I'm pretty sure more of these teams would be led by SEALs, Marines, and Rangers. Like it would be all three of the other branches with some of those front top guys. And then maybe if you need these Air Force, if it's maybe, this Air Force colonel is specialized in, the gate technology or satellites or something, and that's why we need him out there for the alien tech, then yeah, he's a team member. But I really think that it's maybe it was always in my head a little unrealistic, thinking of this many high-ranking Air Force colonels and so ready to go take an M16 and a P90 through the gate. This many dudes on that kind of level. I actually did not believe that when I watched it. I still think I think it's a little oversight to consider so much Air Force frontline boots on the ground combat.
Well, and that's actually one of the things I was trying to refer to as the operational standpoint, too. I mean, like, Major Carter, Colonel Carter. She was, yes, brilliant, but she was an astrophysicist and a pilot. You kind of go, and
She's kind of amazing. Those people, I'm sure, are out there, but I think that also enhances the fact that she was like, there was no one like her, So it depends.
Oh,
it depends on how you look at it.
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, from what we know
Yeah.
and what Nick was kind of talking about, that's sort of an under thing with operational stuff too. So
I watched a lot of the show with my dad, not all of it, and I do want to bring his comments in as well. One of the things that he did notice, especially with Heroes, one of his criticisms is that with Bregman on base, I mean, he's obviously a stand-in for someone like I'm just now blanking on his name, who Ken Burns. He's of that ilk. If this were an order from the president, Hammond would have followed the letter and the spirit of that order to have everyone be as cooperative as they could for that team and not have them be as defensive as they were, to make sure that he had the best chances of portraying them correctly and didn't have to deal with as much conflict with them in order to get the product that he needed. It makes great television, but it really is cross purposes from what the goal of that was. His other, I think, really astute comment was in Insiders, when Carter gets captured by Ball, her authorization codes would have immediately been deactivated. So she couldn't have gotten into the base computer unless she hacked it. She couldn't have just put her codes in to hand over control. It's little things like that that really add up. And then on the flip side of that, the things that the show got right. Hook, can you tell me, or maybe this was military in general, in 2006, I shot a Choose Your Own Adventure DVD movie for my final in college. And it featured Air Force ROTC members. And in one scene, we're there finishing a meeting, and he stands, and I'm like, Nick, incidentally, Nick, I need you to salute. He says, we're indoors, I can't salute. And I was like, I watched it on Stargate, and he's like, yeah, that was 1997. Like,
Yeah.
Oh, when did that policy change?
So
from my
yeah, I'm gonna let others go first real quick.
Yeah, from my point of view, it's always been that way, unless you're absolutely you've been directed to report to somebody that outranks you or your commander. That's about the only time that you salute indoors. That just comes to mind. But yeah, that was always one of the other things was,
Okay.
Yeah.
You'd have to be covered. Most time indoors, you're not.
Yeah.
Now, if you're called into the skipper's office for NJP or something, you're gonna have your cover on and you're gonna go in and salute, and that would be indoors normally. She was also military police. Anytime we carried a weapon in the Navy, we left our cover on, even indoors.
Your cover
Yes.
meaning your hat.
Your hat,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
And that meant that also that was an indicator to people that you were armed. So there's that too. So, but yeah, I mean, I've seen people covered indoors during either non-judicial punishment or an award ceremony or something like that. They'll call you in, you'll salute, and then you take it off type thing. But it's more of a formality to just how serious the situation is, maybe.
Okay.
But yeah, just that I remember one particular, I think it was in the opening credits for a long time where it had RDA, saluting
From Children of the
inside.
Gods, there's a lot of saluting.
Yeah, and he didn't
Yeah.
have the cover on. So that wouldn't have happened.
Okay. Yeah. All right. That makes a lot of sense.
I can attest also that in general, saluting is, customs and courtesies when outdoors with your cover on. If you have certain individuals passing each other, so an enlisted member to an officer, that's the most standard reason for a salute. It's the enlisted member salutes the officer. When the officer renders the salute back and drops their salute, then the enlisted drops it. It is the most common sign of, I'm acknowledging you, sir, hello. It's a requirement, and it is a standard sign of respect. You can, in certain contexts, there will be a saluting indoors, as I said, reporting. First time meeting a new commander. First time meeting a new commander, you might walk into his office, render a salute, and say, "Sir, Technical Sergeant Hooker reporting his order." You might just drop a quick little reporting statement, and at ease, you'll be told, take it easy, relax. I think there might be one of those from Ben Browder, possibly meeting a general. I can't say for certain.
Yep.
There might be a moment like that, but in general, no. It's not a casual flip a little salute here and there, but that might be something to the portrayal of. Richard Dean Anderson being, Colonel O'Neill, a little laid back. It's like, I tried to retire. I tried to set all this a little aside. He's a little, it might be showing the cavalierness on purpose. It might have been really well thought out by the writers.
Yeah, he's like, when Mayborn salutes him goodbye, he uses the flowers. And he's always doing it just dumbing it down, just not dumbing it. That's not the right word, but it's just an O'Neillism.
He's taking the seriousness off of it, which is, again, it's simultaneously, it feels unrealistic, but in his position, with not only the authority that he has earned as a colonel and all the things he has achieved, technically, the whole planet owes him their lives once or twice over. It might just be a matter of he's excising a little bit of I can take a moment and insert some levity and not be disrespecting the uniform that I have given everything for. It's not necessarily disrespect at any point for him to pop off, be casual. It's a matter of you've got to look at him and realize that's the guy. That is the person who can get away with that and not have every general be like, what do you call that hand salute? Or who taught you to salute? I could hear that coming out of my voice at some of my airmen. I've had those moments. And it's is that how you were taught to render customs and courtesies? You jump on someone when you see him do it wrong. But again, seeing that level of authority, I can't even imagine ever the people who could yell at him, Hammond or otherwise. Well, no, you just don't.
He's only doing it to peers or to subordinates under him who are saluting him. So, LuAnn?
Of course, yes.
I was going to say, just talking about saluting and going back to the Congressional Medal of Honor that we ran into, there was only one time in my whole military career that being outdoors and I was walking by another enlisted person that I saluted them so fast that it shocked me, because that was the only time enlisted to enlisted, no matter what your rank was, that person, if they're wearing a Congressional Medal of Honor and they have it on their utility uniforms or fatigues or whatever, and he had it on his collar, that's where he wore it at, that I saluted. He was a PFC, and I was an E5. And wow, I couldn't salute him fast enough.
Yeah.
But, just one of those very rare occasions that, did you guys ever have the opportunity to do that?
Nope. Never met a Medal of Honor winner in person. Wow. Been on calls, they came and called into our unit to talk to us, but just never had a chance.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the only time I ever saw one was one time somebody was speaking when I was in college, but that's before I joined the Marines.
Wow. Some amazing people are involved in, getting us where we have to go. So many. Folks, this has been fantastic.
I get the feeling we could do this for another hour if we just kept yammering. So if this episode does well and you want to do a part two.
Do you want to do a part two? Well, people are going to cry, shenanigans. Where's Space Force and Coast Guard? And we may have to do that if I can get folks in. But this has been terrific. Is there anything else that we need to cover or acknowledge before we let each other go? Just take a moment and chew on that.
I had the opportunity to talk to Donna Davis on quite a few occasions, and we got to the point of, I told him that, I was still in the reserves at that point. And so we got talking about this and that and the other thing. And when my partner Mike first met Don S. Davis, we were at a convention, which David and I have attended many together.
Mm.
And Don told us a story about Ruby on stage and what she meant to him, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And just to show you the effect, a couple weeks later, Mike came home and gave me these earrings and said I was his Ruby. And just, what can you say? So, and that's why I'm wearing the earrings to honor Donis Davis.
That's a great memory. No,
yeah,
absolutely. Ryan, you spoke about. We had an episode which covered it. Can you briefly summarize your experience with Amanda?
Oh wow, that's a whole episode in itself.
We did it already.
Yeah. That was just crazy. Like, I'll never forget that. March 26, 2006. Yeah, I just got the crazy idea. Like, I had a wallpaper like this on my computer at work, and I just cracked a joke one day because somebody was talking about me re-enlisting, and I was getting ready to go to Vancouver in a few months and have my tickets and everything. And I just got this wild idea that trying to re-enlist in the gate room. And then I ended up reaching out to her, and of course, the wonderful Cynthia that helped me.
Cynthia Simon.
She
Miss
was,
you, Cynthia.
yeah, she was amazing, and it wouldn't happen without her. Absolutely wouldn't happen. And Amanda was overseas filming something, and she got back, and she worked it all out, and things kind of got moved around and whatever. Unfortunately, the gate room thing didn't happen, but that was no fault of production or Amanda or anybody involved in that aspect. But yeah, and then Commander May, my maintenance material control officer, volunteering on his own dime to fly from New Orleans to Vancouver, BC, get a rental car, get his own hotel, spent one night, turned around and flew back home just so he could actually sign the paperwork and make it legit. And it was, there was a lot of people there, and there was a lot of tension in that room that day, but it was one of the greatest days of my life. It was just to have her swear me in and do the whole thing. And of course, Commander May playing the joke on her and handing her the oath and telling her to memorize it real quick. And she was absolutely panicking. And it was like, I'm just kidding you. And she's like, oh my God.
She would have had it memorized in advance had you asked her to.
Oh, probably, but I didn't care about any of that. Just to give her the shadow box and everything. We flew the flag over the base in Atlanta on her daughter's birthday, and incorporating my rank and her rank. Like, I put a lot into that box, but I saw her years later, and immediately the first thing out of her mouth, I still have your box thing. It's on my wall in my office. It literally hangs in her house somewhere. So,
Phil, I'd like to exit all of you with asking you this: how has your time in the service made you better, a better person? Phil, can you start us off with that?
That's a tough one because I feel because I was only did 6 as as
only
as a
6, Phil.
reservist.
Oh my gosh! But still, it's.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say. I guess it just made me, more of a determined person at times. If it comes down to something, things are kind of tough. Whether physical, mental. It's just like, okay, just dig down and just work through it. Just suck it up and just power through it. Kind of that Marine, boot camp mentality. It's like things are hurting, just too bad. You just work through it.
We got to do it. LuAnn?
I actually got my civilian job that I retired from 7 years ago because of my military experience. I had the organizational skills, ability to plan, um, how to talk to people, how to present myself, and it made me me. Um, because I was 19 when I joined, and yeah, it made me me. And for that, I am eternally grateful. And also for the opportunities that it gave me. And yeah, that I feel very proud of it. And I'm very glad I did it.
And as a woman, on top of that, in the 70s.
Yes, when I joined, and then even just before I retired in 1997 to make Command Sergeant Major, I was almost like an endangered species. There just weren't that many of us where there are now. And I had had another sergeant major in another unit. And one time we were walking down the street together and we were literally stopping traffic. That was back in the first part of the 90s. And people were like, two of them. Wow. And I'm so glad that's changed.
Yeah. Wow. Hook?
So,
I
And
I'm
Cat?
still and cat. I would still say that I'm still right on the edge of still feeling the formative effects of what the military has done for me. I wouldn't be. I've been a different person, 4 or 5 different times, and the biggest change in my life was who I was before the military, who I am after. Not talking just basic training, you learn some stuff. It's a matter of kind of getting to see so much at once, getting to see so many people from so many walks of life, and realizing, wow, okay, that's one way of doing things. Okay, what should I do here? This and that. And just having to adapt so quick to so many things that I had to change a lot. And you have to shape yourself to fit things. And I'm going to say the military was a great framework for that because there's a lot of support for failure. If you screw something up, there's, aside from people who are required to tell you that was a screw up, please do it this way. There's also just people who are able to just, bounce feedback. You have a lot of, I would say that probably the biggest thing is, again, that immediacy of you see someone else in a uniform. Doesn't even have to be your exact uniform. If I bump into someone in Marine camo or say Navy camo, I can look at that person and be like,
Yeah.
oh, hey, you get it certain ways. So a lot of that, just tuning your brain to be able to just handle things differently, being like, okay, never had to handle stuff like this when I was a kid, high school, a little bit of college. It was like, oh, I don't know. How are you supposed to? Changing that to, I don't know what I'm supposed to do, but let's try a few things. And that's made me, I feel like 10,000 times more capable than I used to be. And I tried to do the best of it I can.
If I may be so bold, I mean, you and I were just talking 2 or 3 weeks ago. It helped you find your voice. It helped you with your confidence.
Mm-hmm. And it's one of those things you can model certain bits of it off of nearly any bit of good television like Stargate too. You can take a moment and look at how people interact and all that, and just be like an actor for a minute and lay out a joke, like moments for a joke. How it makes you better. It's kind of a matter of, again, finding comfort in yourself. It's honestly really what it's been. It's I became comfortable in my own skin and know what I'm capable of and know what I am comfortable doing.
There you go. Stitch?
I think for me, a lot of it was the teamwork, the camaraderie, learning, those type of social skills. I grew up an only child, so I mean, there's challenges in that in itself. But I've made lifelong friends. I still have a friend. We worked together. My second tour, it was his first, 94 to 98. I mean, we didn't go more than probably 2 months, and we'll be on the phone for 2-3 hours just catching up, talking about life and just politics or whatever. But I'd say personally, being a parachute rigger and all that was my attention to detail. That made me, because you can't functional test a parachute. It's got to be right the first time. And I became a perfectionist at certain things. And it might be just, walking out to the car to go somewhere with somebody and be like, hey, you're missing a valve stem cap, or something. And people are like, what? Or they're like, oh, I can't find my keys. And I'm like, oh, the red keychain with the thing on it. Yeah, it's laying on your mantle over there. And people are like, I really noticed that about me, throughout my life. So those are definitely skills and things that I obtain in the Navy. Being we're limited on size, so cross training is huge. And I was a plane captain. I also did environmental and air conditioning systems on certain platforms, and I had roommates that were airframers, so we might end up carpooling. I was out there throwing rotors at 2 a.m. just so we could go home. So I wasn't doing just my job. Like, I remember in Panama in '91, I met an Air Force guy, and they used to be so diversified. All this guy did for 12 years was change tires on a C-130. That's all he knew how to do. And I sat down and I was talking to this other life support technician. She was female, and we were about the same rank, same age and everything. And we started going. She's like, well, what do you have to do? We sat down one day and we figured it out. And at that particular time in the Navy, I was doing 9 different Air Force jobs.
My
So,
God.
Yes.
I have to go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I believe that fits even in modern times, and just as an interesting detail, they're prototyping a new way of doing things now, and they've taken all those jobs and been like, all right, let's try doing this.
yeah, they're trying to
throwing people in the end, but they're throwing people in the deep end now, and there's all kinds of talk, and it's like, I mean, the other branches have been doing it. Surely we can manage, and it's going to be interesting to hear how that goes.
And then AI is going to do it next. I have to brag on Ryan for a second here, and also slap him across the face at the same time. Ryan and I share a couple of characteristics. We can be intimidating and a bit much to certain people. We have very... Phil's nodding.
Phil's been me a long time.
We have we have loud personalities. And I actually had a friend who was like, David, I love you, but I can only take you about once a month. It's been 20 years, granted. But Ryan, I was talking with when I made the announcement that Cliff Simon died, and he knows, my first phone call was from Ryan Nixon. And I had a very awful experience recording that. I was first fine, calm, and collected, but I'd only known for about half an hour, and I'd run home to publish this thing once I had confirmed it. And I lost it on screen. And it's not up for 10 minutes. And I had put my phone down. I come back to it. There's a voicemail from Ryan. And Ryan's bawling on the other end. And he said... I don't know what to tell you other than that was really cool, through his tears. And it's like, I can only name a certain number of people in my life who are like that, and it's not the only. We aren't extremely close. And at the same time, I came across someone a few years later who had contention with you about something, and at the end of that train of thought, she was like, then I had to go and do this over here. And he was the first. It was a crisis situation. It was something that they needed a lot of help and didn't really know where to turn. And you were right there to help them. And she was like, when the chips are down, he's the one who came to my rescue. And it's that kind of spirit that I recognize is so emblematic of the forces. It is a service-minded ethic, and
thank you.
I think that's there's a little bit of that in each of you. You're part of a larger organization that encourages you to be a better person the next day you wake up, and they're by no means perfect, just like us. But I think we are better for having participated in them. And a part of me will always be disappointed in myself for not having served. Man, from the bottom of my heart, thank you all for contributing today and sharing a piece of your stories. Because Stargate would not be what it was without the involvement of the U.S. Armed Forces. It is one of those things that is so intrinsic about it that makes it so welcoming into our homes, where it's like, these are people that when the chips are truly down, when people are running away from a problem, these people are going in. And there's something that's true to the human spirit about that as well. There are some people that they're just built in such a way that when all the red lights are flashing, they go into a mode that says, I'm here, and I'm going to be a part of the solution. And you guys are representations of that for each branch. And I thank you for coming on.
Been a pleasure. Thank you for having us, David.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, this was
Great.
fun.
Had a good time.
Yeah, this was very, very good, David. And it was also nice meeting the three of you.
Of course, absolutely. And
Likewise.
hopefully we all come together again sometime.
My thanks to Phil, Ryan, LuAnn, and Nick for sharing their stories and their insight with us today. My name is David Reed. You're watching the Stargate Oral History Project. Thank you to all who serve to protect those they love, and for those who go willingly. My own father was drafted into the Vietnam War. He retired a major. I'd also like to take a moment to recognize some of the other members of my family who served in the United States military. Believe it or not, there are several missing. My mother's brother, Tom Jones, actually volunteered to go to Vietnam. Some of these folks have some interesting stories. My Uncle Garland jumped from the West Virginia as it sank into Pearl Harbor. If you have any veterans in your own family, if you were a veteran yourself, would you do me a favor and share your thoughts in the comments below? I'd really like to read them. Point of fact, there was actually a very large presence of the U.S. Army in one particular episode of Stargate SG-1 and a little bit of Lost City. Inauguration, James McDaniel played Francis Maynard, four-star general and chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff under the Hseh administration in Inauguration. And I did not want to miss pointing that out here, that he was definitely representing the U.S. Army in that role. So that was a big deal for me to go and remember that in hindsight. So, LuAnn, we were represented a little bit. And my family does watch the Army-Navy game every year. And sorry, Ryan, but go Army, beat Navy. If you enjoyed this episode and you want to see more content like this on YouTube, please click the like button. It does help with the show and will continue to help us grow our audience. Please also consider sharing this video with a Stargate friend. And if you want to get notified about future episodes, click subscribe. And giving the bell icon a click will notify you the moment a new video drops, and you'll get my notifications of any last-minute guest changes. And clips from this episode will be released over the course of the next few months on Dial the Gate's YouTube page. We have a number of shows still coming up for you in the latter half of Season 5. We're trucking along. I'm really proud of the work that we have done this season. We've got a little bit further to go, and we'll see what's in store. I'm planning on running at least through October, perhaps November. We'll see the momentum as we get later on into the season. My name is David Reed for Dial the Gate. I appreciate you tuning in, and I will see you on the other side.